Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
He asked for and was granted his release. It came through today. I don't know what he's going to do. I think he's just kind of trying to let it all sink in right now. But we have not talked about what his next option is.
I'm never satisfied. There's always room to improve, especially in this conference. I think I did well. Definitely made a lot of strides from last fall and last spring. So I just got to keep the momentum going in the summer.
Welcome into Sports Talk here, South Carolina Radio Network. Kevin McCrary, the Professor Tom Hayes with you tonight. Phil traveling tonight on business. Graham Pope behind the glass, and those voices you heard, the first coming from Dreer High head basketball coach Jeff DiBattisto, talking about Tevin Mack, who was officially granted his release from VCU. We'll talk about what those implications will be and what that could mean for the other schools that were in the mix, including South Carolina and Clemson. And Connor Mitch, who it has, it's his job to lose pro at South Carolina with the starting quarterback role. And I don't think there's any doubt in my mind. I know there's no doubt that he is going to be the guy, despite the fact that some people have been panicked about him. And maybe those fears will turn out to be true. I think he's going to be okay. We'll hear more from him later in the program as well.
Well, here's one of the problems that people have, and it's interesting how close experience will make people think that there's only one formula to win. For instance, Connor Shaw ran around a lot. Ergo, all winning quarterbacks run around a lot. Not so. We've seen Alabama win with quarterbacks who can scramble and those who can stand in the pocket. Ohio State has used about 2 or 3 of those in the last 4 or 5 months. So it doesn't depend on what the quarterback does. It's whether what he does well, he does good. That's the key. And this guy stands in the pocket. He makes quick decisions, and he gets rid of the football. He didn't set all these records in high school just by standing still. So give the guy his chance to get all the snaps, the reps, and then see what he does with the starting job. I think people want to see a guy 2 or 3 throws, and they've made a decision whether he can be a winner.
Yeah, the biggest knock that people had against him, which was completely unfair, is that, well, they didn't play any last year. They must not have had any confidence in him. Steve Spurrier didn't talk about him as much, but he had Dylan Thompson, who was out setting the school record for passing yards in a season in an offense that by and large was moving the ball very well. It was a defense that was the major issue last season, but that's all past history, as they say, and you move forward. You'll hear
blame Dylan Thompson for not getting hurt.
Yeah.
Just did not get hurt.
How selfish of him. Speaking of hurt quarterbacks, one that's not healthy now but getting healthier, that would be Deshaun Watson. You'll hear from him later tonight as well. We've got a jam-packed show for you, some recruiting, some bad news involving Gamecock baseball. Big injury, starting pitcher done for the season. We'll give you the details coming up. Got some major news notes that we're going to pass along, and we will also take your phone calls. If you have something on your mind that you want to discuss, we're open for you. 800-956-7266. If you were at one of the spring games, you can share your thoughts on how that went down. What do you think about USC's quarterback situation? What did you think about the defense? If you saw anything that gives you hope there from a South Carolina standpoint at Clemson, the offense put on a big show. What is the expectation for that Clemson offense next season? And the defense, which gave up some points, which gave up some yards, which has a lot of new faces that are going to be playing significant roles. How do you feel about that? And Deshaun Watson, who you'll hear from later tonight, he said he thinks a national championship is in the cards for Clemson next season. So we can get all of your thoughts on that and other things. 800-956-7266, the phone number, toll-free call. You can drop us an email, talkback@sportstalksc.com, and interact with us via Twitter at SportsTalkSC or on Facebook at Sports Talk Radio Network. Links to all of these and other items on our website, sportstalksc.com. So much there for you on our website, sportstalksc.com. All right, let's jump right into it. And we'll begin with the bad news out of USC. And they needed this like they needed a boot to the head. A team that's lost 9 of its past 12 SEC games is now losing its ace pitcher for the rest of the season and probably next season as well. Will Crow, done with a ligament issue in his right elbow. That's his pitching elbow. That is going to require Tommy John surgery. 3-4 this season with a 4.91 ERA, well off his mark from last year. He was 8-3 with a 2.75 ERA. He was a freshman All-American by Baseball America. Real tough blow, the Friday starter for the Gamecocks. Everybody's been struggling, and you'd put him in that mix. He hasn't had his best stuff. Maybe this is a part of it. Sometimes guys are struggling, and then this happens shortly thereafter. And he's a guy I watched pitch in the Kentucky game early in the season. That was a SEC opener, as a matter of fact, and he was dealing. I mean, he was hitting mid to upper 90s on all of his pitches. Kentucky could not catch up to him. He was just pounding fastball after fastball, and they couldn't catch up to him. He might have thrown 20 curveballs the entire day. Everything else was just straight cheddar, and they had no chance. But now he's going to be dealing with this Tommy John surgery, and Chad Holbrook is going to have to shuffle his rotation, and a team that needs a spark is going to lose a spark in Will Crow.
Well, you know, it's interesting. While I'm a coach, I'm saying, man, I've lost a pitcher. But now I'm kind of breathing a sigh of relief. Now I know what the problem is. I mean, because he has not been Will Crow the last few times out. And though it's a sad situation, you kind of figured out that something was wrong. And now you know it's physical. It's not mental or anything like that. So you have to get it taken care of, and we'll see how it stands. But yeah, you're right. It's usually a 1.5, 2-year deal when you have that Tommy John.
Yeah, and he is young. He's a sophomore, 6'2", 240-pounder. Made the all-regional team last year. He had that complete game shutout against Campbell in the Gamecocks opener. In that one, of course, they ended up dropping 2 to Maryland in the NCAA regional last year. But he's just been a little bit off this year. His location has been a little iffy. He has not been as sharp since early in the season where he was effective, and now he'll be done for at least the rest of this season and into next year, maybe all of next year as well. And this is the kind of thing, when it rains, it pours, and you see this happen a lot when teams are struggling and scuffling, then the injuries start mounting, and it can really get ugly in a hurry. And the Gamecocks are playing at home tonight against Presbyterian, and then no rest for the weary. They open a 3-game series Thursday against the defending national champs. Vanderbilt will be in town, and it's a crucial series for the Gamecocks. 6-9 in SEC play. They've lost each of their past 4 SEC series, and right now, staring on the outside looking in for NCAA regional hopes. Clemson also in action tonight. Tigers facing Western Carolina at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. The Tigers, like USC, they've been scuffling, but they did take 2 of 3 against Boston College over the weekend. They play Western Carolina tonight, and then tomorrow night they'll face Gardner-Webb. Then a weekend series at home against Duke. So a winnable series there for the Tigers. Despite their struggles, they're doing okay in the ACC. So they'll have to still make it to the tournament. That ACC tournament still pool play, but the Tigers need to go on an impressive run in their own right to get into the postseason. Very odd baseball season for South Carolina and Clemson. We're talking about Jack Leggett potentially getting fired as it stands now. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Jack Leggett is in serious trouble at Clemson. Now, contrary to what you'll see on social media and message boards, Chad Holbrook is on the hot seat in Columbia. He'll be the first to tell you this season has not gone the way he had hoped, the way he wants it to go, the way he expects it to go. He understands the expectation in Columbia with South Carolina baseball. All that being said, I pointed this out on Twitter over the weekend, even before the sweep, and I'll say it again after the sweep. It is far, far, far too early to blame Chad Holbrook for all of these issues and to say that the program every year under Chad Holbrook, well, on the surface, sure. I mean, but remember what he was inheriting. There was only one direction for the program to go when he came in there. And people forget that Ray Tanner lost some baseball games in Columbia. He didn't win every single game. And on more than one occasion, the Gamecocks were scuffling along in SEC play. And on more than one occasion, they needed a series win in the final week of the season, the regular season, just to get into Hoover, just to get into the SEC tournament and to get a regional bid. They didn't go to Omaha every year. They went 3 straight years, and then they had a little bit of a downtick too before they recalibrated and made another run of 3 straight years. It's not easy to make those kind of runs. It does take time. People say, recruiting's down. Well, they've been bringing in good players. They don't always pan out. And sometimes great players on great teams don't make it to Omaha. South Carolina won 56 games one year and didn't get out of a super regional at home against Louisiana Lafayette. Justin Smoke, who's drawn a paycheck in the big leagues right now, he never sniffed Omaha. They never made a serious run in the SEC with Justin Smoke and Reese Havens. There's a lot more to it than just, well, it's Chad Holbrook's fault. I think that's short-sighted. And Ray Tanner handpicked this guy. Ray Tanner's going to have patience with this guy. And I'll remind Gamecock fans, these are a lot of the same fans that were ready to fire everybody in 2012 when they were 3-7 in SEC play, and Mark Calvey was the big problem then. It was Mark Calvey. Well, Mark Calvey wasn't the problem. They ended up winning the College World Series that year. Now, I don't think they're going to win the College World Series this year.
Here's the other question I asked. Before Chad Holbrook came in as recruiting coordinator and assistant coach, had South Carolina won a College World Series?
No.
Answer, no. So, okay, well, it can't be his fault. But as we said before, if you're ever going to be at a great program and you want to be a solid coach at a great program, don't replace the guy who won the championships. Replace the guy who replaced the guy who won the championships.
It was
always the blame on the guy that takes the
absolutely. Seat. I mean, it's an untenable situation for Chad Holbrook because they could have gone to Omaha last year and gone 0-2 and he'd still, what's happened? We're supposed to win this thing every year. And the expectation, I don't think there's anything wrong with that being the goal every year, going to Omaha. That's fine. But you also have to understand realistically, that's not going to happen. And now people are saying, well, they're going to, Will Crow's gone. They're going to lose Kyle Martin. They're going to lose some of their best players. You've got to believe that some guys can develop and get better, continue to recruit at a high level. They still have top-notch facilities. They still have a name. They should be back. Now, if we're having the same conversation for 2-3 straight years, like they're having at Clemson now, then I get it. And I was an ardent defender of Jack Leggett all the way up to last season. I can't defend it now, but Chad Holbrook's, he's only in year 3. All right, there's some pretty weird weather in the forecast really for the rest of the week. So baseball schedule could be altered. Sports schedules around the state could be altered. But as it stands now, everything status quo for South Carolina and Presbyterian tonight. In fact, that game scheduled to be on SEC Plus. But if the game scheduled on the SEC network is delayed or postponed tonight, they will play the South Carolina PC game on the SEC network. Mm-hmm. So if you're channel surfing here in the next hour or two, or actually after 8 o'clock, when you're done listening to us, of course, you might be able to check out that game on the SEC network. Another big story today coming down, not surprising, Tevin Mack released from his scholarship at VCU. Now, Mack, of course, signed with the Rams last fall, chose them over Georgia, South Carolina, Clemson, among others. But when Shaka Smart took the Texas job, he was going to move on. And the question is, where is he going to move? We caught up with, actually, Korn did. He's traveling. Korn's going to our corporate offices today. He'll be back tomorrow. He's in Missouri. He did talk to Jeff DiBattisto earlier today, the Dreer head coach. And let's listen in on that conversation on what Jeff DiBattisto had to say about where Matt could end up.
All I know at this point is that he asked for and was granted his release. It came through today. Mm-hmm. And I don't, and this is a God's honest truth, so I don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
I think he's just kind of trying to let it all sink in right now. But we have not talked about what his next option is. I've had a couple calls today, and I've deferred everything to his mom.
Everything's going to Paula, huh?
Yeah. And then kind of go through that process.
Have you yourself heard from, coaches that want to jump in on this thing?
I've heard from a couple today. Yeah, but I would be declining to name them.
Okay.
At this point, yeah,
I hear you.
Yeah.
How quickly does he kind of want to move on all this?
I don't know. He obviously has he used all the official visits. So as far as I know, and I don't know the legality, but as far as I've researched, I don't think he can take any more, even in the event of a coaching change.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't think he can go anywhere else officially. I mean, he certainly could visit places unofficially, but that's on his, he's got to pay for it. So, I don't know. Obviously, with the end of the year coming, I think the biggest focus for him is, making sure that he finishes the school year strong academically and make sure he continues to work out. But again, man, seriously, they just got the release today, so I don't know exactly what's going to happen.
All right, there is Dreer head basketball coach Jeff DiBattisto talking about Tevin Mack, and he's deferred to the family right now. We were told by someone familiar with Mack's recruiting that it looks like Texas is a strong possibility. That relationship with Shaka Smart, a big factor with him potentially following him to Austin. Yeah, a couple more thoughts on Tevin Mack. First of all, he's a great player. And, I know there's a lot of South Carolina fans that are getting excited knowing that he's essentially a free agent again. So they get another crack at him. But, you never say never. But I just think the chances of South Carolina getting him right now, based on what I'm hearing, aren't the strongest. I mean, I think that if Shaka Smart wants him at Texas, that's going to be the place that he ends up. And maybe there's some questions about how much room Shaka Smart has and what's going on there. Maybe his family will go, hey, we don't want you going that far away. It was one thing to go to Virginia. It's another thing to go all the way out to another time zone. But, Texas, a quote in the state newspaper from his mother, and, I think her quote was, Texas is mainly one of those that they're considering right now. Is you can take from that what you will. It's always dangerous to try to infer things from a quote. That to me sounds like Texas, who was not in the mix at all, now is. And then somebody else telling me today, Shaka Smart and his relationship with Tevin Mack, which is why he went to VCU to begin with, is very strong, and it very well could pull him to the Lone Star State.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of people want to talk about basketball, but let's face it, most of the time when a kid is on campus, he's not playing basketball. And now you're asking Tevin Mack to go to a school with a recent rich history that's cozy in the city of Richmond, Virginia, and you're looking at what, 12 to 15,000 students. Now you're asking them to go to Austin, Texas, with close to 50,000 students, a huge university, and basketball is not the king sport. So you go to VCU, you're the big man on campus because basketball is it. Now you go to a huge football school, which has great basketball tradition in the last few years, and a great conference in the Big 12, don't get me wrong. But it's a shift in gears for his thinking of what he does off the court from a VCU in Richmond, Virginia versus Austin, Texas.
And one thing that you heard in the interview with DeBattisto was that he's used all his official visits, which means he can't have a paid trip to Austin to visit Texas. And, that's not a close trip. He'd have to jump on an airplane and do it on his dime. Now, it's not unheard of for guys to sign with schools that they haven't visited. LJ Peak did that up at Gaffney. He'd never taken an official visit to Georgetown, but that's where he ended up. And that's another one that South Carolina thought they had a chance at. And let's remember, Clemson was in the mix with Mac too, but most people thought, really a lot of people saying Georgia was number 2 on that list before VCU, but
because his brother played for Fox.
Yeah, when PJ Dozier signed with the Gamecocks, that had him thinking. So there are a lot of different things in play here, but I'll continue to say this, and whatever happens with Mac, we'll see. But if you're South Carolina, and to a lesser degree, Clemson, because Clemson has had more success than South Carolina on the hardwood over the past few decades. But if you're Frank Martin or whoever is a coach at South Carolina and you're going to get that thing going again, you have to land the guys in your state, especially the guys in your area code that are good enough to go and play at VCU, at Texas, at Louisville. I mean, you have to find a way to get those guys. Seventh Woods at Hammond, you can't let North Carolina go in there and cherry pick them. You got to get them. And if you don't, then it's going to be very difficult for you to get your program to that next level.
Well, I would say yes and no for this reason. I think probably Frank Martin is the first coach South Carolina has had in the last 20 years that does not mind playing the AAU game. A lot of times when South Carolina would recruit players, their pool was very narrow because they didn't play the AAU game. But you notice that Frank Martin, it looks like he's running all over the country because he plays the AAU game, which you have to do to survive. Now, the other scuttlebutt around town, I'm not buying. Well, Tevin Mack did not want to be second fiddle to P.J. Dozier and that sort of thing. Well, if that's the case, none of the guys would ever go to John Calipari and be at Kentucky. Because all those guys, it's one basketball. And if you got a guy who's a great scorer and a guy with tremendous height for the point guard position and is a willing passer, why would you not want to play with him? In fact, those two are playing already together this summer with Team USA and have played together before.
Yeah, I mean, I think those guys all think they're good enough to play wherever they are and be the guy. So, I don't buy into that either. But my point is, if you're going to turn around your program and take that next step, how'd they do it in football? I mean, when South Carolina had its greatest run in its 100-plus years of football, how did they do it? They landed the guys in state. Yeah. They kept the best players in their state from going to another program, another blue blood program. They kept Jadeveon Clowney from going to Alabama and Devontae Holloman and Stephon Gilmore. All these guys. Marcus Lattimore didn't go to Auburn. He went to South Carolina. That's what you have to do. And then you can pick and choose some other guys, and you can go into other states and grab some pretty good players. But South Carolina basketball is not going to go into North Carolina and beat the Tar Heels head-to-head for anybody. They're not going to go down to Florida and beat the Gators, and they're not going to go into Eastern Kentucky or Tennessee and beat Kentucky or Louisville for a player. But in their backyard, they have an advantage to say, you know what, stay home. Do something at this school that hasn't been done before. Be a difference maker, but they have to build those relationships and they have to find a way to do it. And I'm not saying that's not happening. I'm not doing this as an indictment on Frank Martin and his staff. They've only been in place for 3 full seasons, but that's the challenge that he has. He doesn't have a lot to sell. And if you're selling Gamecock basketball right now, again, you don't have really anything to sell. You can't say, hey, we packed the house for all our games. No, you don't. You can't say, hey, we're putting guys in the NBA. No, you haven't. You can't say, hey, we're going to play significant games in March. No, you haven't. I mean, you can say we're going to, but you can't point to anything and say, look. You can't point up to the Raptors and say, look. So you've got a tough sell to begin with. But one way they could turn the program around, again, you landed P.J. Dozier. You had to have that. You know, if you find a way to get a guy like Tevin Mack, Sindarius Stormwell, another in-state guy, and you mix some other guys, maybe you can get to a tournament. Then you can get Smith Woods to say, okay, they have something
and you know, the interesting thing is that people got to understand that unlike things can sell your program. And don't think for a minute that one of the biggest sales for South Carolina right now that has nothing that you would think would do with the men's program is that women's program. Because Dawn Staley, it took her 5, 6, 7 years, and they said, wait a minute. You know, she's got a lot of South Carolina kids on her roster. And don't tell me that doesn't sell a kid. Wait a minute. If she can do it in that, we can do it in this sport.
Well, that's the
right
blueprint.
Here.
I mean, and you look at, Atlanta Code. Where is she from? The 803 area code. Asia Dozier, Asia Wilson. Where are they from? 803
Alicia
area
Welsh.
Code. Yeah, Alicia Welsh.
That was
where is
one
she
of
from?
her
Well, I mean,
recruits.
she's not 803. She's down in the 843.
Yeah, right.
But you still have your in-state players. You aren't letting other programs come in and cherry pick. And that's what's happening in football. That's what was hurting South Carolina and Clemson in football. And that finally started to change under the Tommy Bowden and really Lou Holtz era, and really has been upped to a completely different level. Now we're the best players in the state of South Carolina in football, by and large, stay in state.
And that's an interesting point, because as soon as Clemson and South Carolina closed down the borders, who started to fail? Tennessee, because Tennessee used to come right down that interstate and go right into South Carolina and just handpick South Carolina players, which is something they can't do right now.
Yeah, I mean, in Florida State, Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina's beat Georgia 4 out of 5 years. I mean, why? They're keeping Georgia from stealing all the best players in the state. And it's not just, the high school coaches now, they have a reason to say, hey, go take a look at Clemson. Take a look at South Carolina. They built programs that make kids want to go there.
Exactly.
And that's the challenge now for Frank Martin at South Carolina to build a basketball program where kids want to go there. And boy, it's a tough job. But Tevin Mack could end up playing for Darren Horn at Texas. That's the irony of it. Hey, we've got a Braves report. They just keep right on winning. Mike Morgan coming up next. time for our Braves Report with Mike Morgan, brought to you by Play It Again Sports off Bauer Parkway in Columbia, where you pay less for more. Chris Mosley and the friendly staff will help you with the best selection of golf clubs in the Midlands for adults and juniors. By Founders Credit Union, helping South Carolinians attain their financial goals. And by Mattress by Appointment. Real simple. You call, they'll save you 50 to 80% on premium mattress sets from $150 and up. Give them a call at 803-530-8549. That's 803-530-8549. And I'm sure the Braves, on whatever mattresses they're sleeping on these days, Mike, are sleeping soundly, off to a great start at 6-1. Just what we all expected. The Braves off to one of the best starts in baseball.
Yeah, clearly when you give up about half your offense and you lose the top closer in Major League Baseball, you would expect a market improvement in 2015. That's not exactly the script that we thought was written, but so far, so good. I mean, when you look at it, we can talk about a number of different offensive things, but they have allowed just 15 runs in 7 games. I don't care how anemic the offense is, and it's really not anemic so far this year, but even if it was, when you allow just 15 runs in 7 games and you play nearly flawless in the field, you're going to win a lot of games. And so far, that's been the winning formula. We'll see if this back end of the rotation now, which might be a little bit shaky, can continue tonight, beginning with Trevor Cahill.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, I guess potentially a solid pitcher when he came up in the Diamondbacks organization, but stumbled last year. I think it went around 3-11, 3-12, a 5.61 earned run average. When he's going well, what does he do good?
Trevor Cahill reminds me of a former SEC guy, Brandon Webb, who also pitched with Arizona. And if you remember, Brandon Webb for a while had Cy Young stuff. He is all about the sinker. Trevor Cahill is a ground ball pitcher. He is not going to strike out many at all. Everything is going to come low, and if he's working well, it's going to start in the zone and then dart down to your ankles right around the time it hits the plate. You can't hit it. That's the ideal Trevor Cahill that you saw about 3 years ago. The last 2 years, he's been miserable. He's been hurt, and when he's been healthy, he's been awful, and that's why the Braves got him on the cheap, because they need some pitching, particularly if Mike Minor is out for a while, which is looking like he might be. So I don't know what to expect, quite honestly, out of Trevor Cahill, but I'll say this much. I Dr. McDowell take, let's just say, a certain substance and turn it into chicken salad more than any other pitching coach in Major League Baseball.
Mike, they've hit 4 home runs in 7 games. I mean, do you think the power is going to come, or do you think this is just going to be the way they're going to do it this year, where they just have to kind of scrap for every run they get?
Yeah, I don't expect them to hit a ton of home runs, to be honest with you. I mean, say what you want about Justin Upton and Jason Hayward, the 2 players that did have flaws, but you don't have the kind of power to replace those guys. So I would expect fewer home runs than a year ago. They're going to have to win games in other ways. But as I always remind people when they talk about everything that the Braves lost last year, the Braves were 29th out of 30 teams in Major League Baseball in runs scored. So no matter how many home runs they lost, it can't be much worse than it was a year ago.
Now, as far as offense is concerned, obviously, ostensibly, you think all the protection in front of and around Freddie Freeman is gone. But Freddie Freeman, like a lot of folks, it became an epidemic, and he started to struggle last year with the other hitters. Has his approach changed, or has he gotten enlightened of just meeting the baseball, not trying to hit for power all the time, and being one of these the doubles and triples type hitters?
I think it's less scientific than that. I think it's more of, remember, Freddie came off the big contract last year, and I thought at times he was pressing, particularly when everybody else on the team and in the lineup went bad. He put it all on his shoulders, and that seemed to kind of eat away at him a little bit. I think this year he's been much looser. Was much looser in the spring, much looser overall, and much like this team overall, a much better feeling about the chemistry inside that clubhouse. So I think that's the biggest thing is psychological with Freddie. He's going to hit home runs, but he's more of a gap-to-gap hitter than he is a guy that's going to hit 40 bombs.
Mike, we appreciate it. We'll catch up with you tomorrow night.
Okay, guys.
Mike Morgan and our Braves report Atlanta 6-1. They'll
That's,
face the
that's
Marlins again
just
tonight.
hard to believe. I mean, for us to sit here and you would have told me with all the roster building they did over the offseason to go with a strong club, and this will change. We know things will change throughout the season. But to say right here after 7 games that the Braves would be leading the Nationals by 4 games, I would have said you were nuts.
Yeah, I would have said you're nuts too. Let's jump into some recruiting tonight, beginning with linebacker TJ Brunson from Richland Northeast. He's landed an offer from North Carolina. The Tar Heels are the 3rd ACC team to give him an offer. He joins NC State in Louisville. Brunson also has offers from USC and Georgia Southern. He attended the Gamecock spring game last week and plans to visit North Carolina as soon as he can. Brunson had considered committing to the Gamecocks last month, but they held him off because of his hip surgery to further evaluate him in the fall. He's been favoring the Gamecocks, but now says he's wide open. Offensive lineman Jack DeFore of Calhoun, Georgia, replaced Vanderbilt in his top 3 with Georgia Tech. Clemson and Ole Miss remain among his three favorites, and he wants to visit each one as he continues through his process. And he said he's talking with the Tigers on a regular basis. He visited Georgia Tech last week. He's also been to Clemson, Ole Miss, Auburn, and Mississippi State. Offensive lineman Jordan Johnson, 6'3", 275, out of Jacksonville, attended the USC spring game last week. His first visit to USC, he toured the city and got a good look at the stadium and facilities, and also spent some time with USC offensive line coach Sean Elliott to learn more about how he would fit into the program. Along with USC, Johnson has offers from Louisville, Ole Miss, Miami, North Carolina, Rutgers, and Georgia Tech. USC was his first visit this spring. He also wants to head to Atlanta to visit Georgia Tech, and Ole Miss and Mississippi State also on his list of places to visit. Johnson doesn't have a favorite right now, won't make a decision until signing day. And, of course, the big basketball news that we've mentioned, Tevin Mack, the Dreer Star guard, granted a release from VCU. He's back on the market. How long he is remains to be seen. We've heard from his coach that says he's fielding lots of calls, or at least a couple of calls from coaches from schools that are inquiring about his services. But we'll see if Texas ends up being the place that he lands, or if South Carolina and Clemson or Georgia, another school, can get involved. Connecticut was in there for a while on the finalist list before he ended up at VCU, but he was released from his scholarship today. There is recruiting. If you want more, go to the website, sportstalksc.com. You can also hear that interview with head coach Jeff DiBattisto that Corn had earlier this afternoon on our website, sportstalksc.com. I'm putting my money on Tevin Mack landing at Texas.
At Texas, we shall see. That'd be an interesting contrast in schools from VCU in Richmond to Austin, Texas. That is a huge campus. It'd be interesting. But, a chance to play in the Big Eight in a tremendous conference. That's where Kevin Durant played, as a matter of fact. That'd be interesting to see if he takes that step.
Deshaun Watson and Connor Mitch in the next hour, along with the defensive coordinators, John Hoke and Brent Venables. Busy second hour. Darlington President Chip Wild will join us. Pro, I'm going to leave it in your hands. I have to bolt, but I know you'll have a busy second hour. Phone lines also open here. Sports Talk continues hour number 2 right around the corner here on South Carolina Radio Network.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
As they say, 1 out of 3 ain't bad. I'm Tom Hayes with you for the second hour on this Tuesday. What's turned out to be a beautiful Tuesday evening, especially here in the Midlands, a little breeze in the air, and the sun is out. I'm glad to see the sun is out. And as far as the sun being out for South Carolina, some bad news for the baseball program is right-hander Will Crow is out for the rest of the season, torn ligament in the elbow. Will more than likely need Tommy John surgery, which could keep him out not only for the balance of this season, but next season as well. Starting off with the two ranked teams in state as far as Baseball America is concerned, Coastal Carolina is 18th, and College of Charleston making their debut in the poll this week at number 20. College of Charleston leading Coastal Carolina 3-1 in the third inning. That game being played at Springbrook Stadium in Conway tonight. So College of Charleston leading Coastal Carolina. No score early in the second inning. Western Carolina at Clemson, starting Presbyterian at South Carolina. If you'd like to join us, we've got some room for your phone calls, 1-800-956-7266, 1-800-956-7266. And I believe we have a caller on the line now, Scott from Orlando, Florida. Scott, how are you this evening?
Hey, good. I'd like to ask 3 questions, so I could, and then hold on the list. I don't know if I remember them all. One is Shamir Blackshear. Do you think he's going to end up making it on the team? That's question number 1. Number 2 is, what's your thoughts on Connor Mitch? Do you think he's going to be a decent quarterback? Number 3 is the guy from Kansas. Why would that guy transfer to play at South Carolina his last year? Why wouldn't he just finish out at Kansas or whatever? And do you think he'll make an impact? I'd like to hold on and listen.
Yeah, that's interesting. Shamik Blackshear, of course, his legal problems as far as theft is concerned. Don't really know right now what's going to happen there. His if you look at stories coming out of North Charleston area, Goose Creek area, he seems to be comfortable and thinks he'll be able to make it in. But quite frankly, I can't give you a definitive answer if his legal troubles will be cleared up by that time for him to enroll. As far as Connor Mitch set all kind of records in high school in North Carolina, in Raleigh, North Carolina. So this is not a guy who is just a neophyte to the quarterback position. He is a neophyte as far as college football is concerned, but now he's got the keys to the car. He's getting the bulk of the snaps. He's learning how he can play the quarterback position, and he's got to be comfortable in his own skin. Everybody wants to put in their picture of what a winning quarterback at South Carolina is, and that happens to be Connor Shaw right now, who ran all over the lot. Well, that's not Connor Mitch's modus operandi. He likes to get the snap, read the defense, look through his progressions, boom, and fire the ball. That's how he plays the game. I think he will be solid at quarterback, especially if they can establish a second receiver to go with Pharaoh Cooper. And I'll answer your third question when we come back. Stay tuned.
John, Steve mentioned you only played 2 coverages today. How much more will you try to install over the summer and then the preseason?
As much as we can handle. That'll be about it, the one today. As much as we can handle. That'll be about it, We took no different. They got better every day, and they improved the longer they were doing it.
Are you happy right now with where you guys are? Do you feel like you accomplished?
But we still have a long way to go.
And baseball action, Clemson has jumped out with a 3 spot in the second inning. They lead Western Carolina 3-0. Of course, Clemson won 2 out of 3 against Boston College over the weekend. That's their second straight ACC series victory. And of course, they're at the 500 mark now at 9-9 overall and 18-18. So they're looking to jump over the 500 mark tonight over the Catamounts of WCU. And they've got a good start in the third, 3-0. At Springbrook Stadium in Conway, it's the College of Charleston leading Coastal 3-1 in the third inning there, just starting South Carolina and Presbyterian. Scott, your last question about Isaiah Johnson starting at safety for South Carolina. I shouldn't say starting, but just getting a play at South Carolina. Obviously, the story is, if you hadn't heard it, he has graduated or will graduate next month on May 17th, I think, from the University of Kansas with degree in hand, and you have eligibility left. You can transfer to any school and play immediately. That's what Isaiah Johnson is going to do. First of all, Scott, this is, I think he wants to play for Graham. He's played at the University of Kansas that has struggled for years now, and of course it is a basketball school, but this is something he wants to increase or enhance his drafting stock. He's 6'1", 210 pounds. He's very versatile. He can play the strong or free safety. He said to us last night in the interview he preferred to be a ball hawk as a free safety. Great size for a safety at 6'1" and 210. If he comes into South Carolina and plays well this year as a graduate student, the NFL will look at him. The NFL will start to chart him, and he can increase and enhance his drafting stock, which I don't think he could have done at Kansas. Now, obviously, he was a standout at Kansas, but how good was he? He was on just an absolutely awful team. So he played on an awful team, but he played well. So that bodes well for his being a self-starter. As far as him getting his draft stock increased, I think that is a big key for him to come to play for South Carolina. And of course, he's just about 3 hours down the road, up the road, I should say, from South Carolina, from Cary, North Carolina. So he's back on his side of the country. He gets to play in the SEC. He may get valuable playing time to enhance his draft status, and he can work on a graduate degree. So I think that's a win-win situation for him, making the step to South Carolina. That's some of the reasons there. As far as South Carolina's team is concerned, Isaiah Johnson wants to be part of a formula of a renaissance of that South Carolina defense under co-coordinator John Hoke. And right now in the spring, Hoke is satisfied with his KISS system, which is keep it simple, stupid right now until the players learn the system, and then he'll add on as the spring and summer goes along.
As much as we can handle, that'll be about it. We took the approach like we did the first day of spring ball, where we've only played one coverage all day. So we just added another one today, but it'll be enough that they can handle, and they'll dictate how much we put in.
Spring game was a time for a lot of younger guys to get some reps, but Jasper Sasser had 2 picks. Just talk about what you saw from him that really impressed you today.
Well, he's had a good spring. I think we keep track of takeaways every day, and he might lead the spring in takeaways. He's been around the football quite a bit. He's shown improvement every day. Excited what he's done, and hopefully it'll continue in the fall.
One more on Sasser. How much of those 2 picks do you think was him, and how much do you think was on the quarterbacks? And also, there were some good pass pickups in the end zone. Can you talk about that?
I don't really pay attention to quarterbacks. I'm just watching the defensive guys, and in position, and he made the play, and that's about all I can tell you.
You guys didn't want to blitz a lot, but you did have some sacks. How did you just feel about the pressure that Lewis and Wildman were supplying?
It was just on the front 4. We told them that was going to be the day, and they did a good job of rushing the passer when they had the opportunities. We still got a long ways to go, and they know that, but we'll continue to see how well we can rush the passer with our front 4. It's always going to be a part of it. It's always going to be rush and cover, always.
How do you feel about the spring and what you guys were able to accomplish?
It was good. It was good for me personally to get to know the players. It was great for me to watch the staff interact with the players and teach. Got a lot of good teachers on the coaching staff, and that was exciting to see because I didn't have any idea, but they do a tremendous job of teaching. And then just to watch the players get better every day. That was a big plus for, I thought we improved and kept improving from an effort standpoint, from an assignment standpoint, and a technique standpoint.
Kind of go off that last question. What's the difference like, going back to the college level and coaching college players for the first time, a long time?
It's probably similar to a rookie mini camp from when you first start, it's all new to them. Terminology was new, but it was no different. They got better every day and they improved the longer they were doing it.
Are you happy right now with where you guys are? Do you feel like you accomplished what you wanted to this spring?
I think we got a good start. We still have a lot of work to do, and we got a lot of things to clean up. I thought at the beginning of the scrimmage, we were a little sloppy in our run fits. We need to clean those up, make sure we understand our gap controls. So I was just excited that we made progress every day and improved every day, but we still have a long way to go.
And that's John Hoke talking about his defense. As we said before, Scott from Orlando called up and asked about Isaiah Johnson. I think that's going to be a key in this mix. You get a seasoned safety who's versatile. He comes in. Of course, a lot of players have to come in to shore up that defense. And they've got I think Torrey Boyd, who comes in from junior college in California, will come in and add more size to the safety position and range, and he's supposed to be a hitter. Also, we've talked about Quay Lewis a lot during the offseason, the junior college transfer who played his high school ball at Greenwood, being a standout, and he has been that and everything they wish for as far as the spring is concerned. And now they wait on Dante Sawyer at the other end. But a key formula in this is maybe some of the players you already have in the system. For instance, a guy who has had trouble putting on weight throughout his tenure at South Carolina, and finally seems Darius English. 6'6" guy, but very wiry at about 240, 245. He's put on good weight. And he pretty much lived in the backfield during the spring game. Does that add up to production during the fall? Well, maybe not, but he did look like he knew what he was doing, and he had added strength. So that may be a plus as far as the defensive line is concerned. I think another key plus to the defense this year is a lack of confusion. I thought last year you got young players up front, young players in the secondary, and they were trying to learn one system while retaining another, the 3-4 and then the 4-2-5. And what happened is once things didn't work, they got confused. And when that happens is older players who are not used to the system can't tell the young players where to go because they don't know where to go. And the young players are confused because they're trying to learn two systems. So I think early on that defense was just totally discombobulated from a mental standpoint. Once they went back and decided they're going to play just that base 4-2, 4-3, they got more comfortable. They had some hiccups because of all the young players they were playing in both up front and in the secondary. And the defense was a work in progress. But you got to remember that defense really struggled in the latter parts of games. If the South Carolina offense was able to get 1 or 2 first downs or 1 or 2 stops in about 3 ball games, this team would have easily won another 10 ball games last year. It didn't happen. The defense just was not there. I think the defense feels comfortable that they can have a turnaround this season, especially if the offense takes care of the football and doesn't turn it over. It'd be interesting to see. We didn't see much running as far as the football team is concerned, but I gotta believe that they're going to run that football early to take care of young quarterbacks early during the season before they really open things up. That's the way I see it. It'll be interesting to see, but I think the defense can have a turnaround. It'll be interesting to see. As far as Clemson's defense is concerned, they're bringing in young reinforcements, and we'll hear from Brent Venables coming up. Stay tuned right here.
Well, a white defense was obviously the better of the two defenses. I screwed that one up. I actually chose the offense, the orange offense, instead of taking the defense. So that'll be the last time I listen to anybody else. But
personally,
And of course, I decided that I'm going to do a little quarterbacking here and call an audible. In fact, I just want you to hear all of Brent Venables, which would be tough to fit in this segment. We'll play him a little bit later on. I want to remind you that Chip Wild of Darlington Raceway will be joining us at the bottom of the hour. We'll talk about some things that went on over the weekend as far as racing is concerned, and Jimmy Johnson winning his second race of the season. We'll talk about that and more. What's going on at Darlington during the summer as they go back to what we believe is the best schedule, and that is having that race in the latter part of the summer instead of around Mother's Day. So we'll talk about that and more coming up. But right now we're going to shift gears and talk about the offense. And of course, Tony Elliott is now the new co-offensive coordinator along with Jeff Scott for that Clemson offense. It's going to look at a little bit maybe more of featuring the running game this time out this year.
Personal, but I thought they hit some big runs. I thought they were also taking the base hits. We talked a lot about, just take what's there. Sometimes it's only going to be 3, only going to be 4, but if we can get those base hits, the home run's going to come. And they were disciplined on their tracks, and they were able to read the safety fits, the backer fits, and make some big plays. And then looking on the other side, the thing that I noticed is I thought Tyshawn ran the ball really, really hard from my vantage point. I wanted to see Zach get loose a little bit more. Don't know, what the situation was with him, but I thought he did try to stick it up here. He did have some good runs, but on the other side, I did notice that Tyshawn was bound behind his pads and pushing the pile like we expect him to.
Can you say there is a definite hierarchy at that position heading into the summer? Like this is a 1, this guy is a 2.
I think that Wayne would probably start, and then the guys behind him are all pushing. So I put all the rest of the guys in that category. And again, saying that without having Wayne get too big-headed and too confident in himself, because he knows that those guys are pushing. But I like the competition. They all are pushing each other, and as you saw today, that they all bring something to the table, and you feel good when you got that many guys that you feel like you can run any one of them out there, and they're going to be able to execute the offense and be able to find big runs.
It looked like today this offense is running faster than it was last spring game or even at times last year. Is that accurate?
I thought the rhythm was good on both sides. I thought on the White side, they were moving the ball, and then Jeff did a good job on his side of being able to pick up the tempo. And again, like I said all spring, the tempo's been pretty good. They're having fun. They understand who we are, that we play fast, that we put pressure on the defense by playing fast. So I thought the tempo and the flow was good. You didn't see many penalties. So when you don't have penalties and you're able to have big plays and consistent plays, you're able to keep the tempo going.
As far as Clemson is concerned, is tempo. But it'll be interesting to see how tempo may change with Chad Morris. The mad scientists used to just have those plays just going in and out. Be interesting to see if Clemson plays a little bit more ball control early in the season to feature that running game with Gallman and others as far as the Tigers are concerned. We'll be back with Chip Wild from Darlington in just a moment. Stay tuned. And just to update you, if you're just joining us, bad news for the South Carolina baseball program is sophomore right-handed pitcher Will Crow has been diagnosed with a torn ulnar collateral ligament in his right elbow and will likely need Tommy John surgery. He will be out for the balance of this season and maybe the 2016 season. We'll have to see after surgery is done. No schedule on that surgery just yet. South Carolina bad news on the field tonight as Presbyterian has hit them with a 3-spot in the second inning. Presbyterian leading South Carolina 3-0 at Carolina Stadium. At Conway, it is now College of Charleston 3 and Coastal 2. That game in the fourth inning now. And in the third inning, Clemson leading Western Carolina 3-0. As we shift gears literally to Darlington Raceway and President Chip Wild. And Chip, I got to ask you, as far as the NASCAR Sprint Cup race over the weekend, Jimmy Johnson looks like he's going to finish maybe second or third, maybe to Kevin Harvick looking for his third win. And then it seems that Harvick and McMurray leading at that time went high up on, I guess it was turns 3 and 4 or 4 and 5, and then leaving the bottom open for Jimmy Johnson. Was great strategy by Jimmy Johnson or poor technique by McMurray and Harvick to leave that bottom open for Jimmy Johnson to steal the victory?
Well, I mean, leaving the bottom open for a guy like Jimmy Johnson certainly isn't going to help you. Had a fast car all weekend, it seemed like, at the racetrack. And so did Jimmy McMurray and Kevin Harvick. But that 48 team certainly has gotten those mile-and-a-half tracks figured out. He really knows how to get around them, certainly. But with the new rules package, it looks like Chad Knaus and the rest of that 48 team have excelled. So they're 2 for 2. We'll see what happens when we go to the next mile-and-a-half here in a little bit.
Jimmy Johnson has 2 wins. Harvick, I believe, has 2. Are we coalesced into maybe the favorites for the chase now, or it's still too early and we may see a lot more winners before this season is over?
Well, I certainly think that there can be more winners, but those guys have continued from where they left off last year, and certainly have showed speed early in this season. It's just a matter of keeping that consistency up through the spring and summer. It's good to be fast early in the season, but really you need to be fast in the fall when it matters, when you're racing for the championship. I think where those guys have an advantage over the rest of the field right now is that they can start working on their package for the fall and not be as concerned about winning races between now and September. They know they're going to be in the chase for the championship, so they can start really testing and trying different packages underneath their car to see what works and doesn't work. So that's where they have an advantage over the rest of the field.
Dale Earnhardt Jr., he's been close, but you got to say he's been consistently finishing high in these races. You see a breakthrough from him as we go forward.
Well, he certainly showed speed, but the problem is you got to beat Jimmy Johnson and Kevin Harvick in order to win. And those guys just continue to be the class of the field. So we'll see. I think the 88 certainly with crew chief Greg Ives has done a nice job. They've come out of the box strong, but need to continue to show speed, and they'll get an opportunity. When you have fast cars on a weekly basis, you're going to win a race. It's just a matter of taking those guys to get the victory lane before too long.
Now, it's interesting to note, I guess, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think toward the latter part of last season, we kept hearing Harvick's got the best car. Harvick's got the best ride, and that continued into this season. What makes his ride or his team so special that they've been standout for this last few months?
Well, they've really gotten their act together. Their cars are fast. The communication between crew chief and driver certainly is better than anyone else. It's really the total package. It's not about pinpointing one thing that makes you fast. It's really about keeping or finding all the things and the kind of combination together is what makes you better than the rest. So they certainly have fast cars. They have a great pit crew, great crew chief, great engineering. It's just it's a total team effort, and I don't think we're going to see him slow down anytime soon.
Well, let's move closer to home and what's happening at Darlington. I think a lot of people like me that's pushing 60 would say everything's all right with the world because the Bojangles Southern 500 is in the Labor Day weekend where it ought to be. So you guys have had to shift gears, not getting ready for a race here in the spring as far as NASCAR is concerned. What's going on right now, Darlington?
Yeah, we actually have a lot going on. In fact, we have a Taste of Darlington, which is a fundraiser that the DDRA, the Darlington Downtown Revitalization Association, does to raise money to help rebuild downtown. So we got a big fundraiser on Thursday night at the track, and then switching gears next weekend, we have a free a movie, Valley Village. So we're showing the Lego movie. It'll be on Friday night. Again, it's free. You bring a blanket and you come out, and we show it on a big outdoor screen. And then on May 9th, we're really excited about this. The Darlington County Education Foundation is doing a concert in our infield, and it will feature South Carolina country music artist Outshine. And tickets are $15. There's 3 bands. Outshine is headlining it. It's on Saturday, May 9th, and you need to be there. It's going to be a fun event, and the guys at the Education Foundation have put a lot of effort behind it. It's a first-year event, but we're really excited. So we have a lot going on. We're trying to keep our people race fit, so event fit, keep everybody on their toes and ready as we gear up for the Bojangles Southern 500.
Well, obviously, being a devotee of NASCAR like you are, and knowing the history of NASCAR, I gotta believe that you've gotten a lot of tremendous feedback that the race is now back to Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm a traditionalist. Most people in our sport are, and the Bojangles Southern 500 is back where it needs to be, back where it rightfully belongs on Labor Day weekend. So we're really excited. It's gonna be hot. So we got a lot of really cool things in store. Hopefully we can make some announcements on the show here in a couple of weeks about artists, musicians that are going to come back and be a part of our weekend, some of the other activities we'll have going around. But so much excitement about the return to Labor Day weekend for the Bojangles Southern 500. I just can't wait for it to get here.
And of course, being a college football buff as you are, I guess you love to multitask by not only taking care of the race, but checking your phone periodically to see, I think, what is your beloved Georgia Bulldogs are doing?
Yeah, you know, luckily our race is on the opening weekend, so I don't have to worry about missing the Georgia USC game, which falls on the second weekend. Looks like we had a good spring game last weekend, and looks like we're going to be back in full force. Man, I tell you, the SEC is just such a strong conference. I'll be interested to see. I really want to see how South Carolina does. They always play us well. And I just feel like there's so many good teams. You really don't know where you're going to fall until you get to the meat of the season.
Okay. Well, Chip, thank you a lot. We appreciate it. Sounds like you do have a lot going on to get the people back to the track. And, of course, loving Darlington as we get ready to go back to history as far as that Labor Day weekend race is concerned. That's Chip Wilder, president of Darlington Raceway, as we look at the NASCAR circuit. And, of course, we're talking a lot of college football. And I did call an audible. I know some Clemson fans are thinking about that defense. And, boy, you're going to have maybe a few players off that Clemson defense last year hear their names called in Chicago next month at the NFL draft, namely Vic Beasley, who may go in the first 5 picks. Although I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed that he'll drop to number 8 and the Falcons can pick him up. Of course, he's a hometown kid growing up in the Atlanta area, so I know that's where he would like to play. It'd be interesting to see if they get that opportunity. And, of course, a guy like Grady Jarrett is gone. But Brent Venables is really excited about his young troops, and he says, yeah, I got to start in 11. I know who they are, but my young players have to develop and to develop depth over the summer, and he likes what he sees so far, but he'd like to see the guys work on their own during the summer and come back with a vengeance during fall practice. And we'll hear from Brent Venables in just a moment. You stay tuned right here. Well, when we enter the fall, Vic Beasley, Grady Jarrett, Stephon Anthony, Tony Stewart, and a few others will not be running down that hill for the Clemson Tigers. They will be probably playing for a professional team at that point in time in the National Football League. But as far as Clemson is concerned, Brent Venables says he has some great young charges ready to reload. And he talked about picking his defense and maybe picking the wrong one for the spring game.
Well, the white defense was obviously the better of the two defenses. I screwed that one up. I actually chose the offense, the orange offense, instead of taking the defense. So that'll be the last time I listen to anybody else. But no, it was good. You know, it's been a good spring. There's a bunch of things you can nitpick about today, but overall, I thought we had a really strong spring. I think we'll have an opportunity to have a strong defense. We've got, I think, a little bit of depth in the secondary, and I think we'll be strong up front. And I think we've got to continue to develop and continue to get better in our pass rush, and start working on our. BJ Goodson's had a good strong spring. He wasn't in there today, but I think we got good chemistry there. Need more proof. I need to develop guys and get more depth at linebacker. We're an injury away right now from not, to be in that position, being a liability. But I think we had a chance to have a good core as well. So leadership development and some of these young guys having to grow up really fast. Once they get on campus, we got 5 D linemen showing up here this summer, and the continued development of some guys that haven't been stars that are in that 1 or 2 deep there, first team, second team. They're having a great summer and getting in them, really doing a good job of watching themselves from the spring video and cut ups and things of that nature. So, we'll see where we go, but we have a chance to have a strong starting 11 plus a few. And that was easy. All right.
Your second defensive back across from McKenzie. Can you talk about those guys and where you go into summer now with those guys?
Yeah, Ray Tankersley, Ryan Carter, Marcus Edmond, Adrian Baker. Those are our corners. So they've all done some really good things. Some guys got to add some strength to their game and improve in their coverage and technique. But I like the group. We have some length there, we got some speed there, we got some toughness there, and their development's going to be critical. And you need to be able to play with more than 2 corners. I know for certain I feel real good about Cordray, where he's been. He had a really strong spring a year ago, and then he didn't have a great fall camp for whatever reason. And we can't replicate that. Mark Fields is the only other secondary guy that's not here, along with Tanner Muse isn't either. But in regards to the corners, Mark Fields have a chance if he knows what to do and he comes in good shape, to kind of jump into that mix. We'll see.
And another guy that needs to grow up on the South Carolina side over the summer is Connor Mitch, the redshirt sophomore, who went 10 of 16 for 180 yards in the spring game, and his thoughts on how he did this spring game.
Connor, just could you judge your performance today, and also do you consider yourself the number 1 guy?
That's not up to me. That's up to Coach and Coach Mangus. I think I did fairly well. Made some good reads, made some bad reads. Overall, we moved the ball pretty well, so that's what you just got to look for in the spring game.
Did you feel like you did enough this spring to kind of prove yourself or separate yourself from the other 2 guys, or do you think you still have some more work to do next fall?
Oh, I mean, I'm never satisfied. There's always room to improve, especially in this conference. I think I did well. Definitely made a lot of strides from last fall and last spring. So I just got to keep the momentum going in the summer.
Are equal reps, equal numbers for all 3 of you guys this spring? What do you think that says about the whole group?
We're all great friends, great competitors. Skarnecki and Perry, both great quarterbacks. We all took our reps and tried to make the best out of what we could.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how they play this. Carter Mitch likes to throw the ball quickly, get it out. Be interesting to see if to enhance the running game, they don't go to a 2 tight end setup with maybe Jarrell Adams and Kevin Crosby there. And, of course, you'll have Pharaoh Cooper as one wide out and maybe Deebo Samuel. See how they play out of that formation. A lot of things are going to happen before the fall begins. And Carter Mitch, I think, is the odds-on favorite to get that number 1 QB job. Back in a moment. I guess the biggest news on the recruiting front for tonight, Tevin Mack, the forward out of Dreer, who signed with VCU because he was enamored with the coaching style of Shaka Smart, who is now the head coach at the University of Texas. Tevin Mack was given his official release from VCU, and now the games begin. Obviously, from some of the camps, you hear that it seems that he will move over with Shaka Smart to Texas. But that, of course, is not a done deal. South Carolina was in the mix recruiting Tevin Mack before he agreed to sign with VCU. Also, Georgia was in that mix as well, and some other schools, including UConn, I believe, at one time. But it came down, it looks like South Carolina, Georgia, and VCU, and he elected to go with Shaka Smart, which he may elect to do if he moves on to Texas. But, of course, South Carolina can get back into the mix. It'll be interesting to see what happens as far as Tevin Mack's future is concerned. Will Crow, South Carolina's right-hander, torn a ligament in his right elbow, will need Tommy John surgery, out for the rest of the season and maybe the 2016 season as well. We shall see. As far as South Carolina is tonight, tough news so far for the Gamecocks at home at Carolina Stadium as Presbyterian put up a 4 spot in the second inning. The Blue Hose lead the Gamecocks 4-0. They're in the top of the third in that ball game. In an entertaining ball game against the 2 ranked teams in South Carolina so far, College of Charleston ranked 22nd in Baseball America, leading Coastal Carolina, which is ranked 18th in Baseball America. They're the College of Charleston leading Coastal 3-2 in the 6th inning, that game being played in Conway at Springs Brook Stadium. And the Clemson Tigers are leading Western Carolina by the score of 4-0. That game is now in the bottom of the 4th. the Clemson Tigers hit WCU with a 3 spot in the second and 1 in the third to take that 4-0 advantage. The Braves find themselves trailing early in the second inning against the Miami Marlins. They're down 3-0 in that ball game at Turner Field this afternoon. And of course, we want to thank Chip Wild for dropping by as he talked about some of the entertaining things they'll have going on through the rest of the spring and summer as we go back to the future or back to history, any way you want to look at it, as the Bojangles Southern 500 now back on Labor Day where it ought to be. As far as baseball is concerned, we'll talk about what happened at Coastal tonight and at USC and Clemson when we reconvene tomorrow at 6:05. K-Mac and Phil will be joining us at that time, and we'll have a lot of fun just rehashing what happened over the night before. And, of course, anything that goes on with recruiting, Phil will have that news for you as well. I want to thank Chip Wild from Darlington Raceway for joining us tonight, and thank you to our producer, Graham Pope, who kept me in the middle of the road for this second hour. And we'll be back tomorrow with more of this stuff right here on Sports Talk.